Hello and welcome to another DVD Bunker. I'm Brian. This is Matt.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
How you doing?
Not great.
Not great.
It's kind of a shameful. It's kind of a shameful corner of the bunker we're getting into today.
Yeah, we've already reached the depth.
Like we've already reached an embarrassing addition to my collection here. If you guys have never watched before, this is a show where we go through my personal DVD collection down here in my bunker and try to look at movies I don't remember as well, or movies that maybe I remember really fondly and other people don't really get into as much, and I'm trying to figure out why. But either way, we kind of revisit things and see how they hold up.
Yep.
Today, we're going to look at League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, apparently.
We're going to see how it holds up.
I mean... Listen.
Tell me about it. Pre-shoot me about this.
All right. Here's the thing. I want to talk a little bit here at the top about, like, the kind of eras of comic book movies.
Yeah, okay.
In the 70s, you had basically just the Superman movies, and then almost nothing. And then you had Batman 1989, and that was like a lightning bolt.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that struck the world, and it's like, whoa, comic book movies. We can do comic book movies.
Yeah.
But then there's still, like, this dead zone until 1998. So you got a lot of garbage in there. And then in 98 you get Blade, and then it's like 2000 or 2001 you get X-Men, and then, or it's like 2000 X-Men, 2001 Spider-Man, or something. They're pretty quick succession there, and that's when it got really dangerous, because Hollywood thought they had a handle on the comic book movie. And they were like, we've got it.
We
Boom.
figured it
We had
out.
A couple hits, we're ready to go. You can take any comic book property and put it on the movie screen, no problem.
And you mentioned one, and I don't want to bury the lead here, but didn't the guy that directed Blade also direct this movie?
That's true.
So he's arguably responsible for part of the resurgence. So let's of course let him, let's pick him up, let him do what he wants.
Give him a bigger project. Now. This is too where Marvel was trying to do. This is 2003, so Marvel's trying. They've hit their stride with Spider-Man. I got so excited the day I saw Spider-Man, I had to call off work.
Yeah.
I called off work after seeing Spider-Man in the theater, and called off for the rest of the night so that me and my friends would sit around and talk about it. It was Derek.
It wasn't even. I love that you didn't even call off to see Spider-Man. It was you were so moved by the movie.
After Spider-Man, I needed to sit around my house and talk about Spider-Man. So yeah, let's just say I was into the comic movie thing, and I also had a big thing of, like, I would get excited about comic book movies, and I would buy the books that were related to the movies that were coming out if I wasn't familiar with them.
Get pumped up.
So, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I believe this is a one where I saw the movie first and then got the books. The movie is pretty widely renowned as garbage.
Yeah,
People pretty much hate it. People people know it's not good.
This is one of those crazy movies that made tons of money, but nobody likes it, right? This is one of those.
It did fine theatrically, I think.
No, I'm pretty sure it made like 3 times its budget.
Really?
Wow. No, maybe twice. It was, I think, cost $78 million and made about $200 million.
In this kind of, like, everybody was really hyped about comics at the time, and they probably were like from the director of Blade, which the Blade sequels were doing good and stuff. But you were saying before, and I agree, that this is maybe one of the best premises for a movie.
It's so good. For any fiction, in my opinion, and this is...
I think that's what made it so appealing to make as a movie. People were like, oh, what a good idea. And it was from Alan Moore, which... Famously, Alan Moore works they have a hard time adapting them too, and he doesn't like his work to be adapted to film.
Oh, I wonder why.
Well, right, exactly, maybe because he hasn't had the best experiences. But still, it's like, it's a really cool idea. You basically have the X-Men of the 1890s, right?
Yeah,
so you got all historical kind of like literary figures and like figures from pulp books and stuff in the early.
It's so wonderful. I mean, if you look at the source material, which it's so new too. I feel like the book was actually written in 1999, so they immediately were like, let's turn this into a movie.
Within 5 years, they were making a movie.
And this is probably most of the part of the reason why. And I've heard him talk about distancing himself from this. He didn't go see it. He didn't want anything to do with it. But anyway, to take these literary characters, Alan Quatermain from King Solomon's Mine, Orlando in the books, I don't believe he appears in the movies, is like Han Solo meets Sherlock Holmes. He's like this thief character written by Arthur Conan Doyle's brother. So you have these, and Captain Nemo, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, it's like all the great English literary heroes together fighting. Oh, it's just so great.
And it's funny because I remember seeing the movie and then I remember getting the books. In the movie I was like, you know, you had that. I didn't have nearly as keen of a mind for movies. I mostly just enjoyed my blockbusters. I didn't like analyze things too heavily at that time. So I was kind of like, it was all right. You know, not great, but fine. You know, fun. It's had some cool stuff. Hell, it's got Sean Connery. I always like to see him. So I was like, I was okay with it. Then I got the books, and I'm reading the books, and I'm kind of like, these aren't anything really like the movie at all. And it's not. And it's like, but the books are Alan Moore books, really well written, really nuanced. The characters have a lot of layers, and the story is really like well told, and the visuals, you know, are used well to propel the story. And it's just like really masterclass, you know, graphic novel writing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we'll get into it because I did take the time to kind of revisit the first book in preparation to watch the movie, so I could have an even better idea of the things they missed, the things they tried to get in there, or where they could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we go watch?
No, I'm going to say this. I think we dumped on it a lot. I want to say I'm only upset about what we didn't get from this movie, and I'm still open-minded because I remember nothing, but I imagine there's probably good reason for that. I'm not a complete turd. I remember many things about my life. So,
all right, yeah, we're gonna go torture ourselves a little with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and we'll be back to tell you how it goes.
All right, see ya.
All right. We're back. We did it. We watched LXG. Gotta shorten that down.
Yeah, that's
if they could have found a way to stick a Z, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen's with a Z at the end, they would have done it.
Alex, that's what's holding up the reboot, I think, is just finding the right spot for that Z. Turns out it's in 1996 somewhere.
Start off with the fact that this movie opens with a straight up Austin Powers joke played for drama. Tank rolling through town, a group of bobbies with their little nightsticks are like, stop! Literally, they all run away but one, and he gets run over by a tank, and he has all the time in the world to get out of the way where he knows he's going to get run over. And I was like, and it's totally played. I was like, that's rough. Right off.
He doesn't move. He stays the whole time. Over. It just takes it. They show his hat.
And it's like, I was like, this is not a good sign. It's not a good sign coming in.
But it comes off of, is that right before we meet? That's the very first scene, right?
That's the very first scene. That's how the intro is. It's like that tank then rams into a bank
robbery,
and you're reveal our villain, the Phantom.
Yeah, it looks like a guy bought like a weird Genghis Khan mask at
it's
Party
like a silver
City.
mask over a scarred face, and he wears a big coat.
Yeah,
and you know, whatever, bad guy. Yeah, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Then cut to our intro for Alan Quartermain, and that's Sean Connery.
Yeah, which that part is cool.
Should we tell people who might not know who Alan Quartermain is? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
he's
Alan
like an adventurer from the in 1900 pulp comics and like novellas and stuff. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like King Solomon's Mines is like one of the main stories he's in. And yeah, he's like a hunter and adventurer. Like it goes to Africa. They know him there. He hunts animals and keeps people safe.
He has a good relationship with natives. And isn't there some magic element where he supposedly has died and been brought back?
Yeah, he's magical. There's magic. I think it's like more his friends that have the magic.
He's England's Indiana Jones. He's English Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And that's what this first scene, this intro scene, is exactly what that is. It's like if you took the two characters from The Last Crusade, from Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade, and made them into one guy, if you took Henry Jones Jr. and Sr. and put them together into one character, that's what you get, this Alan Quartermain, this version of Alan Quartermain.
And you're right, in the first fight scene, we don't see anything like that ever again, where it's like, it's funny, because he's doing,
he does things in the environment.
Things. Yeah,
he has good fisticuffs, his pugilism. He does a little bit of that later, too. He does do a little bit of fighting.
But it's it's like kind of lighthearted, he's quipping and stuff while it happens. Yeah,
and although there are a lot of old men getting murdered.
He's got like 4 body doubles. All of them get murdered. He throws one in front of them and takes bullets, and then he runs at the bad guys.
Your life was almost over anyway.
Yeah. I do love, though, after this, you said it before, and I think there's a ton of it. I feel like this guy was really into watching Tim Burton movies when he made this, because there's not just, first of all, at this point in the movie, we get the Batmobile.
That's what I was just about to say. They all leave their meeting, and they walk out, and they see Nemo's car, and this car is featured a couple times, and this thing...
It's a white Batmobile.
It's a white Batmobile, and with those dimensions, and yet they do all these stupid camera tricks, like they cut away so you never see people getting in and out of it, because this thing clearly cannot hold more than 2 or 3 people, and 6 people get into it. They have a scene in there where they're talking, but they always cleverly cut away. I'm like, you can tell they have perspective. Unfortunately, they have the guy waiting for Nemo. It's like his second mate or whatever is standing by the car. If they wouldn't have had that guy there, they could have tricked you into thinking it was a little bigger. But they stupidly have the dude standing by to be like, "Welcome, Nemo," and it's like so you can tell how big the car is. It clearly could not hold. Like me and you could not sit comfortably in the front seat.
No, we would be upset. And
I'd be all bunched up.
There's scenes in the back seat of this car. It's like a low-budget TARDIS, really. This car.
But on the flip side of that coin, this also introduces what you were talking about. Part of the aesthetic that I really like. Although it is a little dark and Tim Burton-y, but I do like the Nemo stuff. All the stuff related to Captain Nemo. That's my favorite. The look of the car, the look of the boat, all his little technology, the outfit, all of the stuff all his guards are always wearing.
Yeah, he's got stormtroopers. He is kind of a bad guy.
He's got his own pirate ship. Basically, he's got his own submarine version of the Titanic, and he whoops ass across the sea.
When they go into Venice, they come off that boat like stormtroopers.
Yeah, they do.
They establish
and he
a perimeter.
uses them as an armed force throughout the movie, which is pretty sweet.
Not a successful.
Not necessarily successful.
I do want to talk about the Nautilus real quick. They show everybody this awesome boat, and everybody, of course, is like, "Wow, this is amazing." But immediately, everybody in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen has a working knowledge of the layout of this boat. They're in the library. They're in their quarters.
Mina is doing chemistry. She's doing tests. She's got
and I mean this is an aircraft carrier-sized boat we're talking about, and they all immediately go to there. There's parts later in the movie where they have to know. I mean, how does Mr. Hyde know where that one lever is? He immediately goes to the right spot.
We're traveling on the Nautilus to Venice, and this is, I think, the strongest part of the movie right here.
Yeah.
No action, but we're built to a lot of good character development, a lot of good character building, and you realize that you've got a lot of good actors in this movie who are really playing good roles, except Stuart Townsend. But they do, they're pretty decent. You get a good father-son thing kind of going with Tom Sawyer now.
Teaching him to shoot. And he does a great job when he explains to him that his son's dead, and then he brings it up 5 minutes later, did you teach your son how to shoot? Your dead son wouldn't know how to shoot? Guess not. That's probably why he's dead.
That seems like a sensitive area. Can we dig at it a little more?
In front of this stranger guy.
You know how men who hunt and kill in the wilds of Africa love to share their emotions? That's a thing. Yeah, everybody.
With Scottish accents. They love to talk about their dead. Anybody loves to chat about their dead son while we're having a moment of levity in this eventual war we're going to with bad guys.
You get to see a little bit of Nemo acting mysterious, which by mysterious I mean worshipping a different religion than us.
Yeah, that's true. They literally see him worshipping Kali, the god of death.
Kali, and they're all nervous.
Oh, can we trust this guy? What's he wearing on his head?
And it's Mina Harker, who is seems like one of the more enlightened members of the group, and she's the one to bring it up.
And she enjoyed the killing, and he says that. You're the one I'm worried about, is what he says to her. But because when you murdered that guy, it was sheer joy on your face.
Not just a vampire, daywalker.
Yeah.
So Norrington brought a little blade to this movie by having Mina Harker freely walk around in the sun. That's just not even.
They don't talk about it.
They don't mention it. She's just a daywalker.
I think they probably forgot. They just shot her outside. Later, somebody brought it up, and he's like, "You're a daywalker, baby, just like in Blade."
Just like in Blade. And then I picture that he put on his Blade-style sunglasses.
Oh, that's good times.
So we get to Venice. And at this time, they figured out that somebody, and they blame the Invisible Man.
Figure out the bombs, he's the bad guy.
The Invisible Man's the bad guy. But they get to Venice anyway, there's nothing they can do, they can't find the guy, obviously, so they figure he ran off with whatever he stole.
Good thing there's canals in Venice, so we can pull our 2-kilometer boat.
Up, and so close that we're buildings are cracking and some of the
It's touching the sides. You can't turn. Good thing that all these bombs are directly in front of where, that's Nemo's. he's a scientist. He knows where to
He
pull
knew where
in.
everything.
Yeah, I'll
he knew
give him
that
that one.
spot.
I'll give him that. I'll fill that hole for you.
But just
Nemo.
as I was saying that, like, I liked all the character stuff on the boat, this is just the biggest, dumbest action scene for no reason. It's so stupid. So
we
you
get the Batmobile.
But the return of the Batmobile, now in convertible form, so even more it is revealed that there's no way a maximum of 4 people can sit in this. This is it. And they're cramped. So it was so annoying.
The bombs go off immediately when they get there, so we've got the Batmobile, and then they just
they're
have
trying to
drive.
like get. It's some stupid thing where they have to get ahead of the explosion. It's super dumb.
If they blow
they're
up
driving and they're just shooting at guys, and everybody is freely just stepping out of a moving car. This car is like speeding through the streets of Venice, and they constantly are just like getting up and hopping out and just stepping out. 80-year-old Alan Quartermain just jumps out onto 2 feet. It's ready to go.
I mean, he's top speeded, and he just jumps. It just lands on us.
Oh, and there's just this
But that's the whole thing with this movie. It's like a good part, and then a part where you're like,
she turns into a swarm. She does that thing where she turns into a swarm of bats, and they do
Kills
that
everybody.
weird like quick cut of her climbing up the wall. So it's like all like.
This is my whole thing is with it. I have a real problem. You have that, and you have the Nautilus. Like, how are there bad guys left? Like, okay, you turn into bats. Kill everybody. You fire whatever guns you have at everybody.
And you have an army of dudes, so they should just be like walking through the streets. Like,
this is one of the few times where the good guy army actually outnumbers and outguns the bad guy army. I mean, they have metal suits that they walk around in, but whatever. So, so they save it. I honestly thought when he was in the Batmobile and he had that flare that he had to shoot off, I thought that was going to be like a Batman tool where he just shot out and saved. But it turns out he didn't need that because when they blow up the building he's in.
Apparently Tom Sawyer is also an immortal. There's a lot of immortals in this movie because Tom Sawyer's first of all, he's in a convertible that flips and lands on its top in a building.
It crashes through the building.
Through like a concrete. So I mean, like all these things could kill him. He's a fragile, frail boy. Then the whole thing with him shooting the flare was so Nemo could pinpoint the spot to drop a missile from the Nautilus, and that hits the building there, and it is totally like Independence Day style eviscerate. Just twigs just explode out.
Blocks are leveled on this bomb.
Sawyer returns to the Nautilus, does not even have they didn't even bother to put some dirt on his face. He just walks up like, "I'll live to fight another day," and that's literally what he says. Super fucking stupid. Dorian Gray, for some reason, reveals himself to be the traitor, although he didn't have to. He didn't have to, he could have shot. He sneaks up on a guy, he waits till he turns around, and then he shoots him. He could have just shot the guy and still maintained his secret.
Yeah, and what was the point of it? Did he need a ride from them? What was the point of him going back onto the boat?
He stole that little pod, remember? The cool little pod that comes off the side, which is, again, another cool little aesthetic thing. I don't know how that thing would actually move. They never show it. I guess it does have a paddle kind of on the side, but the paddle is made of, sharp spikes.
Yeah, it's like a saw blade in the water.
It definitely is something that was designed to look cool and not be super functional.
Cool. It looked cool.
And it did its job in that regard. It looked very cool.
And Nemo was hella pissed when he saw him take it, too.
Yeah.
So.
And they're going to chase off after him, but there's bombs on the Nautilus and they go off.
And at this point, we've also found out that M is the bad guy in it was like the dumbest reveal ever because he just gets his metal mask knocked off and you see his face. I didn't recognize him.
He still had scar makeup on. He has a mask and he's supposed to be scarred under the mask, so when his mask comes off as the Phantom, he's still scarred under there. He could have just but
Sean Connery was stabbed. He's laying against the wall. He doesn't know what's going on.
But he peels off the makeup too to make sure you know that it's M. And then his plan is revealed.
This is the worst part of the movie.
He left a message on the Nautilus for them to find.
Explaining his whole plan to
James
him.
Bond style plan explaining.
But this is where it even gets. I couldn't believe. I thought this was supposed to be for humor. Then he goes, "Why am I explaining my plan to you? Because I have another plan to explain to you. The plan of where I'm going to blow up the Nautilus." It's almost like then he's like,
the recording he was using was sending out some high-frequency signal that set off these bombs on the Nautilus, but it was very much like, this message will self-destruct, and there's some Inspector Gadget.
Unless someone knocks over this thing in the next 10 seconds, what will we do? And then, of course, these bombs, though, this is what else bothers me. Nemo needs to rethink his crew hire. They're just laying out in the middle.
They're not
even, people working.
They look like a briefcase just set in a hallway.
It might as well just have bomb written on the side of it.
It would have been awesome if it would have been a red box with, the black bomb on the thing thing coming in with a little wick coming off the top, like some Looney Tunes shit.
We do use some Looney Tunes shit later where we just have the box with the dynamite strapped to the little timer to the top. This movie, the answer to your problems this movie is bombs. That's the answer to problems.
Bombs is only one of many things wrong with this movie.
But anytime there's a problem, they're like, we got a missile. Well, we got some bombs with timers on them. Let's blow them up. There's bombs under Venice. Bombs on the Nautilus. They love bombs.
There are a lot of bombs.
So
the bombs go off of the Nautilus, and this is where
barely
Hyde
hurts the Nautilus.
Yeah. Well, Hyde gets his chance to prove himself a hero now. He's like, let me do it, and Jekyll trusts him and actually takes the potion willingly, and they go down, and he has this big heroic moment. So now they're like a team, and they all join. They're going to band together, so they fix the Nautilus very quickly. So they go to M's stronghold to have their final battle, and they literally do the hands-in moment. Hyde puts this big meaty hand out, and they all like put it. I was like,
yeah, it's kind of lame for sure. Mostly because they don't even do a hoe or anything.
No, they don't have a. Aside from the fact that they say the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen like 40 times in this movie.
Yeah.
They name drop the League all over the place. They should have just been like, the League!
Yeah, something
like,
cool.
They've already said it over and over again. You might as well, if you're gonna at least lean into how cheeseball it is. Like,
dude, because if you ever done that in real life where you do the hands-on thing and nobody does the hoe, it's fucking creepy, man.
Everybody touches hands and then we all just pull away quietly and walk off.
Yeah, try not to make eye contact with anybody.
All right, guys, well, we got our plan, so...
let's put our hands on top of each other.
Try not to go
weird.
die. All right,
oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So this is where you get kind of like your big final battle, and they do a lot of big matchups. You get some Dorian versus Mina first of all, because she's hurt because he banged her and then betrayed everybody. So you have the battle of the immortals.
She stabs him in the
vampire
dick.
Versus just immortal made of dust,
sword fight. Basically. Which, let's talk about just the dumbest thing ever, which I gave Dorian credit for earlier in the movie because first of all, he knows he's a bad guy. Why would you explain your only weakness to your immortality to the people that you're double crossing? Number two, why would that painting be anywhere but buried under hundreds of pounds of cement somewhere?
But that's the thing, the whole deal, the reason he was working with M was because M had the painting. M gives him back the painting, and that's why it's there.
I would make sure that
he did go out of his way to explain it to Mina, knowing he's the bad guy, knowing that's his only weakness. So because the filmmakers didn't have any faith in us to know who Dorian Gray was, and he had to have an exposition moment to explain himself, he inadvertently gives away his only weakness, which is dumb, which makes him super stupid. And she uses it on him. She pins him to the wall. She pulls up the painting. The CGI on his... It looked unfinished. It looked really bad.
It's not as good as Last Crusade.
Right, exactly. The practical effects
of
Last Crusade where he disintegrates, it's the exact same thing, only this looks like garbage.
Yeah, like 15 years later?
Awesome. 1989.
Yeah, so almost
Crusade.
15 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, wait, can we please back up for 1 second? When they fight, when Quartermain and Moriarty fight, they're at the top of this huge tower at his castle in the snow or whatever.
Yeah, right.
He's about to die, and he escapes using what can only be called the Batsuit.
Yeah,
I mean, he flies.
That big coat that he'd been wearing is the Phantom. When he jumps out the window, he basically just
his wings on his Batman.
He does glide down.
So we have two sightings of the Batmobile. The music. It can't, like, during that part, I definitely was, like, sounded like Batman, and you get there's a lot to love about Tim Burton's Batman in this movie.
There's a lot of love for Tim Burton's Batman, and I think that Stephen Norrington brings a little of his own love for Blade in his own work into this movie.
Hey,
he's like,
when it works,
he's like, you know what I wanted to do in Blade? I really want Blade to turn into a pack of bats. So I think I'm going to fit that one in here. But when he was directing Blade, they were, like, a little tighter on his leash. They were like, no, these aren't the type of vampires that turn into a swarm of bats. He's like, fine, I'll just save that, put it in his little notebook. And then when he got this, he was like, Mina Harker's in this. She's a vampire, right? And they're like, well, actually, in the book, she's not really a vampire. She's like, she is now.
She's a vampire.
She's a vampire. She's going to turn into bats.
Check my contract. It says I get to name at least one character a vampire and get it to turn them into bats.
And not only do they do the lightning strike to, like, kind of give you the idea that Quartermain's still alive, but the whole group walks away together to get back on the Nautilus. You kind of get the impression that the League is going to stay together. So there's a little sequel bait at the end of this movie in a way. Like, they kind of, if it had gone well, do you think we would have got another one?
Yeah, it did go well. I don't understand.
It made money doesn't mean we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Just because it makes money, critics and fans won't go again. Their outrage, and they're not gonna pay to see. Well,
it's so true.
Maybe had this movie bombed like in 2011, we would have still got a sequel. But at this time, 2003, they weren't banking on that.
Yeah,
Nowadays, a movie makes its money back overseas, they'll do a sequel. They don't care. So you had almost no memory going in. Was there anything that, like, when you saw it this time, reminded you that of things you liked, or like? The Jekyll and Hyde stuff I liked. I liked the back and forth conversations, especially the ones, not the ones where they're all self-congratulatory, like, we did it as a team, buddy. Yeah. And they're like holding hands through a mirror, but the ones where you can see he wants to get out, especially with when they're kind of fighting against each other.
Yeah, and they're talking about Mina like, she'll pay attention to me, she doesn't want to see you. I thought that was great. As he's walking down the hallway and you see him through every other window. Yeah, well, they use a device in the movie where like, Jekyll can see Hyde in a mirror, and when Hyde's, he can see Jekyll in the mirror, so they kind of communicate. But I like the way they use the holes of the ship as they walk through,
and then when he gets to the corner, Hyde steps around and puts his hand on Jekyll's shoulder, and you get that kind of interaction.
Yeah, you really
that
get
is a really good moment.
Yeah, and I thought,
I would agree. I think some of the things they do best. I think the introduction of Quartermain. We talked about how cool that is. I think the introduction scene of Hyde, all the way from the chase through Paris to when they have him on the ship, they have him chained up and he's knocking even though his arms are basically two big sticks and they don't move, it's still cool the way they have him chained up, and then you have the great transformation. So I agree, that stuff is done really well.
And you can find out he just can break free at any time because he snaps one of those chains at that guy to warn him. So I thought that was good, and I remembered how much I liked Nemo. The ship almost had like a Wes Anderson vibe to me, like a Steve Zissou, even though those movies actually might have came out around the same time, but I really was thinking of like Life Aquatic
when they're inside the ship.
Well,
he's got like, the world building's pretty cool as far as like kind of the interesting take on technology that Nemo has, because it's like, it's supposed to be in the 1890s, so it's advanced, but it's kind of like steampunk. I guess you would say steampunk.
Yeah, it is steampunk. I thought that during the movie. I think would have made this movie better, because I have some things that I think would make this movie maybe not awesome, but passable. Let me sell you my first one.
Okay.
And this is a big one, and I think this would have made this movie so much greater. Fights between the heroes when we meet them. I would have loved to see Quartermain, like, tussles. They build that tension where they don't like it.
You want that Avengers moment.
I think, that and, like, kung fu movies, when you meet a guy for the first time, here's my thing. And
you gotta test each other
you can call it a cliche if you want, but I'll say this to you. If you and me are meeting each other for the first time, we both have special powers, I don't know a lot about you, but we're going into a fight together, I need to fight you so I know what I'm working with.
I gotta see what I can do. I gotta see what you can do.
If you're a guy that can hammer something big, then let me know so I can toss a guy to you in the middle of the fight that you just hammer out of the way.
They do that by having them fight like a group of guys with machine guns.
Yeah, but I would have liked just a little tussle. Yeah. Let's see some of what Nemo's working with. Let's see what the Invisible Man working with. He is the worst part of this movie to me, because they don't even use him for anything other than to be like a red herring character and make you wonder where he's putting this white makeup that he wears, because he's walking around naked but he somehow has white makeup on him all the time. My guess is keister stash.
It's time to do Goodbye versus Goodbye, and man, I'm conflicted.
Really?
Well,
you've turned since you were ready. You had the fire going in the backyard.
Here's the thing. There's things in here that are good.
Yeah.
There's parts that are done right from the book, but they are very few and far between.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of clutter, and there's a lot of like unnecessary characters added.
Yeah.
And all the action and all the big budgets, like, tentpole type stuff is garbage.
Yeah.
It's all terrible.
Yeah, it's not. There's not a part where you're like, oh, this is amazing action.
The only redeeming action is the first scene with Alan Quarterman, his intro, and the intro of Hyde, where they're chasing Hyde. That's like the only stuff in it that I like, aside from the character moments.
Yep.
So, that being said, I don't think I can consider it a success, so I don't think I consider it a goodbye.
Even with the $3 X2 bundle!
I didn't get that $3! Look, the thing is still here! I didn't get that!
That might have pushed it over
Who
the
knows?
edge.
Maybe I got a little bit of my money back. Thanks for joining us on what was a difficult confusing episode of the DVD bunker.
Conflicting
Emotions here. It's hard. This was a hard.
I just want to go lay in my bed right now.
I thought it was going to be a slam dunk. I walked in, I was so sure, but man, I struggled. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Unofficial Fan Fights, comment down below. We read them. Tweet at us at Hercules,
at the Drunksman, and I'll be honest, don't comment unless you're going to tell me how great I am.
Well, you can comment about the movie or how great we are.
No, just specifically how great I am.
I'll answer your questions about the movie. Matt will answer your compliments about his hair and beard.
Yes, I also think they look great.
Hashtag DVD Bunker, hashtag Matt's beard. Be sure to check out the other shows, Fan Friction, Odd Shape Panel. That's great stuff. And thanks, Ron and Google I Platypi for our music.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jeannine and Austin for our banners and our artwork.
So great.
And Jeannine's G9 Design Shop on TeePublic. Check out.
Shirts.
If you want a shirt like this one, if you want to rep a show that nobody has ever... Like, how hipster are you? Nobody will have heard of this shit.
You are the one man of the internet.
Or woman, you found the deepest, darkest corner of the internet that isn't porn. So, to be fair, it's not.
Light
well,
nudity,
it's gonna be.
Brief nudity.
It will be when the camera turns off, but... So, aside from that, thanks for coming, and come back again soon. We'll do something better.
A little lighthearted. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.